A shocking clue may have just changed everything regarding the Ashford family dynamic. And guys, we need to talk about it immediately. For weeks, we have watched Curtis face severe assault charges for hitting Isaiah, and the narrative has been pushed that Curtis simply lost control in a moment of rage. But a new detail could expose the truth, and it paints a far more sinister picture than a simple physical altercation. Something feels off with this entire legal nightmare, and the pieces of the puzzle are finally starting to align. We are being led to believe that Portia is the torn, stressed out mother and wife, caught between the man she loves and the surgeon who was injured. But the reality is that a massive secret is right in front of us, hiding in plain sight. This is not just a story about an unfortunate fight. This is about a calculated, cold-blooded plot to lock an innocent man away, and the truth is about to be blown wide open. The viewers have been watching Trina try her absolute hardest to distance herself from her parents' endless drama. She has been focusing on her music, trying to build her own independent life away from the constant chaos and secrets that seem to follow Portia and Curtis wherever they go. But this new development is going to pull her right back into the center of the storm. And this time, she will not be the collateral damage. She will be the executioner. We have to look at the exact moment that shifts Trina from a passive observer to an active, dangerous player in this high-stakes game of deception. Let us talk about the clue that sets this entire explosive storyline into motion. Picture this scene. Trina, perhaps stopping by the hospital or returning home unexpectedly to grab something for her music premiere, walks down the hallway and stops dead in her tracks outside a slightly open door. Inside, she hears voices. Not just any voices, but Portia and Isaiah having a deeply private, incredibly incriminating conversation. Trina overhears them discussing the assault charges, but it is not a conversation about justice, healing, or finding a peaceful resolution. It is a conversation about a setup. She hears them confirming that they are actively framing Curtis, ensuring that the narrative remains twisted so that he is guaranteed to face maximum prison time. But it gets significantly worse. As Trina stands there, frozen in disbelief and horror, she hears Isaiah's smug, arrogant voice floating through the crack in the door. He is actually celebrating the fact that Curtis is going to be locked away. Isaiah expresses his sheer joy that with Curtis permanently out of the picture, he will finally have Portia all to himself. He goes on to mention baby Desmond, talking about how he wants to move in, step up, and play the role of the devoted father to the newborn. He is mapping out a future where he completely replaces Curtis in the family dynamic, erasing the man from their lives while he rots in a jail cell for a crime that was entirely manipulated and blown out of proportion. If you ask me, this overheard conversation is the absolute breaking point for Trina. We have seen her endure a lot of heartbreak, but this is a violation on a level she has never experienced before. Hearing Isaiah casually discuss stealing her father's life, moving into his home, and raising his infant son is completely sickening. But the true horror, the detail that absolutely shatters Trina's world, is Portia's complicity in the conversation. Trina realizes in that agonizing moment that her own mother is not just standing by helplessly, she is actively participating in this plot to destroy Curtis. Portia is allowing this man to orchestrate her husband's downfall, and she is nodding along with the plan. That's where things become interesting, guys, because instead of bursting into the room in a fit of rage and screaming at them, Trina does something completely different. She stays perfectly silent. She backs away from the door, her mind racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and she begins connecting the dots. Suddenly, every strange interaction, every suspicious glance, and every weird piece of timing over the past few weeks starts to make crystal clear sense. It may not be a coincidence that Isaiah was so incredibly quick to push for maximum penalties and hint at massive lawsuits. It may not be a coincidence that he has been lingering around Portia, playing the victim while subtly asserting his dominance over the family's future. Let us look back at the history here to see how deep this goes. We already know that Isaiah recently vented to Britt about his ultimate goal to take Curtis down in court. At the time, it sounded like the angry, frustrated rantings of an injured man seeking standard legal justice. But now, filtered through the lens of this overheard conversation, that interaction takes on a terrifying new meaning. Isaiah was not just venting his frustrations. He was stating his calculated objective. He provoked the situation, he manipulated the aftermath, and he is actively using the legal system as a weapon to clear his path to Portia. This could explain a lot about why the evidence and the narrative against Curtis have felt so overwhelmingly perfectly stacked against him from the very beginning. And then there is Portia. The bigger question is how a mother and wife could cross this unforgivable line and betray her husband so deeply. But if we look at Portia's history on this show, there may be more to this story than just a momentary lapse in judgment or a reaction to stress. Portia has a well-documented track record of keeping massive, life-altering secrets to maintain absolute control over her environment. Let us not forget the monumental fact that she lied to Trina about Curtis being her biological father for nearly 2 decades. Portia always justifies her deception by convincing herself that she is doing what is best for her family. Right now, in her twisted logic, she might genuinely believe that a life with Isaiah is safer and more stable than a life with Curtis, and she is willing to let Curtis burn to the ground to achieve that false sense of peace. This brings us to the big reveal theory, the absolute core of where this storyline is heading in the coming week. Trina is not going to let them get away with this, not for a single second. But she is incredibly smart. She knows that if she confronts them right now without solid, irrefutable proof, they will simply deny it. Isaiah is a respected, smooth-talking surgeon, and Portia is a master manipulator when she is backed into a corner. They would gaslight Trina, tell her she misunderstood the context of the conversation, and immediately accelerate their plans to lock Curtis away before Trina could intervene. So, Trina makes a chilling, brilliant decision. She is going to take them down from the inside out. We are about to witness the fascinating evolution of Trina from a sweet, supportive daughter into a cold, calculating mastermind. She is going to play the long game. She will smile warmly at Isaiah when he comes over to the house. She will hug her mother and pretend to be the dutiful, oblivious daughter who is just trying to support her family through a tough legal time. But behind their backs, Trina will be orchestrating a massive, secret investigation. She is going to hunt for digital footprints, hidden text messages, recorded conversations, and any shred of concrete evidence that proves Isaiah and Portia colluded to frame Curtis. Imagine the intense, heart-pounding scenes of Trina sneaking into Portia's phone while her mother is distracted in the other room with baby Des. Imagine her secretly recording Isaiah when he thinks he is alone in a room, baiting him into making arrogant, incriminating comments about his grand victory over Curtis. Trina is going to weave a web so tight that by the time Isaiah and Portia realize they are caught, there will be absolutely no escape. She is turning their own deceptive tactics against them, and she is doing it with a level of precision and patience that would make any seasoned Port Charles investigator proud. If this theory holds true, we have to talk about the aftermath, because the fallout from this revelation is going to be truly apocalyptic for everyone involved. When Trina finally springs her carefully laid trap and presents the undeniable evidence to the authorities, who loses everything? Isaiah, for starters. His lucrative medical career will be instantly obliterated. The arrogant surgeon who thought he could play God with people's lives and manipulate the justice system will find himself facing severe criminal charges for perjury, conspiracy, and manipulating a police investigation. The very prison cell he so gleefully built for Curtis will become his own permanent residence. But the true gut-wrenching tragedy of the aftermath lies with Portia. When the truth finally comes out into the light, Portia will not just lose her medical license, her reputation, and her freedom. She will lose her daughter forever. Trina has forgiven Portia for a lot of terrible things in the past, including the massive decades-long lie about her paternity. But this, conspiring with another man to send an innocent man, Trina's father, to prison just to play house, that is a boundary that can never, ever be uncrossed. Portia will have to look into Trina's eyes and realize that her own flesh and blood was the one who orchestrated her absolute downfall. The psychological devastation of knowing Trina outsmarted her and utterly despises her will be a punishment far worse than any prison sentence a judge could hand down. And what about Curtis? He has been sitting in a jail cell or out on bail, facing the terrifying, heartbreaking prospect of losing the first crucial years of his son Desmond's life. When Trina's gathered evidence finally clears his name, his vindication will be incredibly bittersweet. He will be freed from the legal nightmare, but he will return to a family that has been fundamentally, irreparably shattered by his wife's betrayal. However, the bond between Curtis and Trina will emerge stronger than ever before. She will be his ultimate savior, the one person who refused to give up on him when the rest of the world, including his own wife, conspired to throw him away like garbage. We may be looking at the beginning of something huge, guys. This is not just a storyline about a legal battle or a hospital romance. It is a masterclass in betrayal, family dynamics, and cold-blooded vengeance. The writers are perfectly setting the stage for Trina to claim her power in the most dramatic, satisfying way possible. She is no longer the victim of her parents' endless mistakes and lies. She has become the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Isaiah and Portia are walking around Port Charles right now, completely oblivious to the fact that the quiet, observant young woman they think they have fooled is actually meticulously plotting their absolute, inescapable ruin. The truth could be closer than anyone realizes, and the countdown to the final explosion has officially begun. Someone may not be ready for what is coming next, and that someone is Portia Robinson. She thinks she has everything perfectly under control, but she is entirely unaware that she has birthed her own worst nightmare. Trina is currently the most dangerous person to her mother's dark secrets, and when she finally strikes, the shockwaves will be felt throughout the entire hospital, the police department, and beyond. Keep your eyes glued to the screen, because this revenge plot is going to be legendary, and you will not want to miss a single second of Trina taking back control of her family's legacy.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.